human species has two body forms, namely the male and the female. They are the contrasting expressions of a single characteristic called sex. Sex is an inheritable mechanism developed to ensure successful reproduction in the human species. These boys and girls are gymnasts. They have the typical body form of their respective sex. Take these two gymnasts, for example. We see how different the male is from the female. The female body is typically slim, with marked differences in the bust, the waistline, and the hip line. The arms and legs are rather slender and smooth, matching well with the trunk to form a graceful figure. The breasts on the chest are large and bulging. The male body is typically stout. The chest circumference, the waistline, and the hip line are more or less the same size. The male arms and legs are rather thick and strong. The body as a whole demonstrates a sturdy build. The chest is broad, but the breasts are small and flat. An adult man can have facial hair on the upper lip, the chin, and the cheeks. The larynx is large and bulging on the front of the neck, hence it is commonly known as the Adam's apple. An adult woman has neither visible facial hair nor an Adam's apple. The male body form is distinct from the female one by the sex organs below the belly. The male sex organs are the external parts of the male reproductive system. They are the penis and the scrotum. The scrotum houses two testes. The testes contain a compact mass of numerous coiled fine tubules. The cells in the inner lining of the tubule divide repeatedly, resulting in numerous tadpole-like sperms. Human sperms are so small that they can be seen only under a microscope at high power magnification. Each sperm has a long tail, which beats vigorously, driving the sperm forward in the liquid, filling the space inside the tubules. In this manner, sperm move away from the testes and enter the sperm duct. Sperms move along the sperm duct to the urethra. On the way, a milky liquid secreted by the seminal vesicle is added in. The mixture is called semen. The sperm duct unites with the duct from the seminal vesicle to form an ejaculatory duct, which passes through the prostate gland. The secretions of the seminal vesicles and the prostate gland aid sperm mobility. The urethra from the urinary bladder runs inside the penis and opens to the exterior at the tip for the discharge of urine. During sexual intercourse, semen is discharged through the urethra. Besides sperm production, the testes are the main source of the male sex hormone. The tissue between the coiled tubules is interwoven with many blood capillaries, which lie close to clusters of endocrine cells. The endocrine cells secrete a male sex hormone, which diffuses into the blood capillaries. The male sex hormone is carried around the body by blood flow. It acts on the brain by initiating sexual desire, sexual impulses, and physiological changes in the penis. The penis is filled with two parallel strips of erectile tissue. They lie above and parallel to the urethra. The erectile tissue is spongy with many cavities. When a man has a sexual impulse, all the cavities in the erectile tissue are flushed with blood. The blood builds up a pressure which makes the penis expand and extend. This phenomenon is known as an erection. During sexual intercourse, a man's penis becomes erect and is put into a woman's vagina. The muscles in the wall of the ejaculatory ducts contract and discharge semen into the vagina. The penis then softens and shrinks, and sexual intercourse ends. The female reproductive system consists of 2 ovaries and 1 uterus. The uterus lies among the kidneys, the urinary bladder and the rectum in the lower abdominal cavity of the female body. It looks like an empty sac, opening downwards into the vagina. The cervix is the part of the uterus lying between its opening and the boundary with the vagina. The uterine wall is made up of thick layers of muscles. The inner lining of the uterine wall is called the endometrium. A pair of oviducts arise from the top of the uterus. The free end of each oviduct expands to form a funnel surrounding an ovary. The ovary is a solid organ with an oval shape. There are many ova, or egg cells, at different stages of development inside the ovary. The surface of the ovary is covered with a single layer of cells. These cells divide repeatedly to produce ova. Each newly formed ovum, or egg cell, is surrounded by a ring of cells from the adjacent tissue in the ovary. The cells divide repeatedly to form a wall of many layers of cells. A space filled with liquid appears in the wall, and the whole set becomes a follicle. At this stage, the follicle comes into contact with the surface layer of the ovary. The follicle bursts, and the ovum is expelled out of the ovary. This is the process of ovulation. Once an ovum leaves the ovary, it is immediately trapped into the oviduct. The ovum moves down the oviduct into the uterus. It then leaves the cervix and falls into the vagina. Eventually, the ovum in the vagina is expelled outside the body. The period between the production of an ovum and its expulsion lasts about 1 month. The urinary bladder lies in front of the uterus. It opens to the outside via the urethra. When the bladder wall contracts, the stock of urine inside is discharged through the opening of the urethra, which lies in front of the vaginal opening. The follicle in the ovary plays an important role in facilitating growth of the ovum. Some of the cells in the follicle secrete a female sex hormone. When the female sex hormone is carried by blood around the body, it initiates development of female sexual characteristics, especially changes in the uterine endometrium. The uterus undergoes a periodic change once every 28 days. The endometrium is a thin layer in the beginning. Under stimulation of the female sex hormone from the ovaries, the endometrium thickens due to the development of many blood vessels filled with a large amount of blood. The endometrium eventually bursts, and a large mass of blood vessels and blood falls out and is expelled outside the body as a sudden discharge of blood from the vagina. This bleeding is called menses. If sexual intercourse occurs during the ovulation time, the ovum in the woman's body may meet the man's sperms in the oviduct, and a fertilized ovum is formed. The fertilized ovum divides repeatedly and becomes an embryo by the time it moves into the uterus. If the endometrium is thick enough, the embryo will implant into the uterine lining. The endometrium with the embryo will go on to thicken and maintain the thickness for about 40 weeks. Hence, menses will not occur until the baby is born. The disappearance of regular menses dates is a signal of pregnancy. The human ovum is an exceptionally big cell. The yolk counts over 99% of its mass. The yolk has a rich content of nutrients. When an ovum meets sperm in the oviduct, a large number of sperms compete for getting into the ovum. Only one sperm is successful. This process is called fertilization. During fertilization, the nucleus of the sperm fuses with that of the ovum. A fertilized ovum is produced. The fertilized ovum immediately forms a thick coating on its surface to stop invasion by other sperms. Meanwhile, the fertilized ovum divides repeatedly into a group of about 100 cells. These cells arrange themselves into a hollow ball. It is the early embryo. At this stage, the early embryo implants itself into the much thickened endometrium, and the process of embryonic development continues. The woman is now in a state of pregnancy. As the embryo goes on developing, it gives out many minute, finger-like outgrowths called chorionic villi. The villi secrete a hormone known by the abbreviation HCG. HCG diffuses into the blood of the mother and will be discharged into her urine. The level of HCG in the urine of a woman in the 4th week of pregnancy is high enough to give firm evidence of pregnancy. If the urine of a woman gives a positive result in an HCG test, we can conclude that she is pregnant. By secreting HCG, the chorionic villi initiate changes in the mother's endometrium, which interlinks with the embryo's chorion to form a disc-like structure called the placenta. The embryo goes on developing and transforms into the fetus. The fetus lives in the fluid enclosed in the uterus. This fluid protects the fetus from damage or shock while the mother is moving about. In the uterus, the fetus is connected with the placenta by an umbilical cord. Using the placenta as a filter, the fetus absorbs oxygen and nutrients from it and removes carbon dioxide, urea, and other metabolic wastes to the mother's blood. If a pregnant woman smokes, drinks wine, or takes drugs at this stage, she takes in a lot of substances which will pass through the placenta into the fetus. This will cause damage to the fetus. It may even cause a miscarriage. If this happens at the early stage of pregnancy, the alien substances will affect the early embryo, resulting in the development of a malformed fetus. The viruses causing some diseases, such as German measles, can pass through the placenta and will affect the embryo, leading to the development of a malformed fetus. A fertilized ovum stays inside the mother's uterus, where it develops into a baby in about 40 weeks. In the 39th or 40th week, the uterus contracts, while the vagina widens, so as to push the baby out of the mother's body. This process is called labor. The placenta sheds off and is removed with the umbilical cord as the baby leaves the uterus. The newborn baby feeds on milk from its mother's breasts. The baby's growth needs intensive care by the mother over a long period of time. The secret of sexual differences lies in the cell. The human cell bears a dark-colored nucleus. The nucleus is enclosed by a nuclear membrane. The material inside the nucleus absorbs stains better than the rest of the cell, hence the nucleus usually looks darker. The nuclear material is called chromatin. In a normal cell, chromatin appears like a mass of long, slender threads. When a human cell divides, the nuclear membrane disintegrates and the nuclear material mixes with cytoplasm. The chromatin threads shrink into 46 chromosomes. The 46 chromosomes can be arranged into 23 pairs, according to size and shape. In the first 22 pairs, the 2 chromosomes in a pair are identical in appearance. In a man's cell, the 2 chromosomes of the 23rd pair look very different. The longer chromosome looks like a cross and is named the X chromosome. The shorter chromosome looks like the alphabet Y and is named Y chromosome. In a woman's cell, both chromosomes of the 23rd pair look alike. They are both X chromosomes. Genetic research reveals that the Y chromosome carries the male genes, while the X chromosome carries the female genes. If the 23rd pair consists of one X chromosome and one Y chromosome, the male genes in the Y chromosome will dominate over the female genes in the X chromosome and produce a male body. When the 23rd pair consists of 2 X chromosomes, it leads to the development of a female body. A reduction division occurs once during the formation of sperms or ova, and cells carrying 23 unpaired chromosomes are produced. As a result, a sperm bears either one X chromosome or one Y chromosome, and an ovum bears one X chromosome only. During fertilization, the X chromosome or Y chromosome in the sperm have an equal chance, 50% each, of getting into the ovum. Hence, the sex of a person is determined at the moment of fertilization. Whether the fertilized ovum is male or female is a matter of chance, which is half and half.
Boys are superior.
Girls are more capable. Girls can never be stronger than boys.
Girls are physically weaker.
Girls are more sensible than boys.
Boys can protect girls. Boys are good in problem solving. They fear nothing.
In fact, boys and girls have their own merits. In general, boys are physically stronger, but girls have better language ability. Hence, boys need not be too proud of being male. Boys should not think that they are superior to girls, because girls are not so physically strong. Since we are not living in the Stone Age, we don't need to hunt, and strength alone is not essential.
Boys don't have to have babies.
Boys have their own problems.
Girls have to buy napkins.
On the other hand, both boys and girls have their own problems. Hence, girls need not feel inferior because they have to suffer pain from menses monthly. Boys have to shave daily and feel the pain of razors.
If I had the choice, I'd rather be a girl.
I'd rather be a boy.
Boys and girls, don't worry too much about your sex. You may feel much better if you determine to play your own sex role to the best.
I like being a girl.
I am satisfied to be a boy.